Okay. So I have a slight book buying problem, and well, maybe more than slight at this point, but we've got a lot of books to talk about. Some of them are fall-ish vibes, some of them are from the library, so I didn't buy all of these, and there's a couple on my Kindle, so we're gonna talk about all of them. I'm gonna try not to spend too long on the plot of each book because I don't want this video to be hours long, but the first book that I picked up is The Brothers Hawthorne by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which, if you don't know, is basically a follow-up to the Inheritance Game series. So that series is done, it's a completed trilogy, but this like continues the world, and this is from the perspective of Grayson and Jameson, who are two of the brothers from the original series. And the story basically follows them like reconnecting with parts of their family they didn't really know about until recently, and they're both kind of involved in like a challenge of some sorts that involve these family members, and we get a lot of insight into their characters through these perspectives, which was really interesting. If you can't tell, I've already read this, by the way. Honestly, the pacing was a little off for me. This book is almost 500 pages, and I feel like it did not need to be. It felt pretty slow at the beginning, but overall it was kind of fun and interesting to read. So that is the first book. Second book is Funny You Should Ask by Alyssa Sussman. I have heard really great things about this, and honestly the only reason that I bought the physical copy of this is because the cover is so nice and pretty and I love it. But this book I've heard is inspired by a Chris Evans interview. It's about a writer who interviews a movie star, and they spend like 2 days together, and the whole world is like, oh my god, they have so much chemistry, shipping them. But then they like never talk again until 10 years later when they come back together for another interview. And I mean, it's a romance, so we can kind of guess where it ends up going. I'm excited about this one. And then the next book I've also read, and that is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. You probably know what this is about. It has literally been all over the internet. It is a fantasy romance, and I read this on my Kindle and I gave it 5 stars, and I like to buy my 5-star books in physical copies. So this book is about Violet, who lives in a world at war, and when you turn a certain age you have to pick your quadrant, and she wanted to be a scribe, who are like the writers of the world, but her mom forces her to be a rider who go to war on dragons. So she spends her first year at this war college learning battle strategies, doing all these crazy deadly challenges, and meeting her dragons, and it's great. If you have not read it, I'm sure you have. I cannot wait for the second one. I will be reading that ASAP when it comes out. I always forget to say this in videos, but if you want to hear more about like what I'm reading in the moment, you can follow me on Goodreads or on Instagram. They're both linked in the description of all my videos, but I'll put them like my handles here. The next book I got is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. I've been meaning to pick this up for a really long time because I've only read Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, and I loved it. I think their writing is very beautiful, and so I have high hopes for this book. I think it's a time loop. Maybe it's not a time loop. Maybe it's like a time, like a past and future kind of romance thing. Our main character, August, meets Jane on the subway, and Jane is from the 1970s. So I think this will be a fun book. I'm excited to read it. And then the next book, once again, I have already read. This is a collective haul, but that is The Last Word by Taylor Adams. This is a thriller about a girl who is staying in this really remote cottage house sitting, and she leaves a 1-star review on an author's book, and the author sends her like threatening messages asking her to take it down, and when she doesn't, weird things start happening around her house, and she thinks that the author might be stalking her. And this book was really creepy. I really enjoyed it. I have a full reading vlog with this in it. I definitely want to read more books by Taylor Adams because this was scary. It had me like up at night, like I couldn't sleep reading this, and I flew through it. It's super fast-paced, a really good thriller. The next book I got is The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling, and this I bought because it has Halloween-y vibes, and I wanted to read like a Halloween-themed book before the end of October, so this is on my TBR for this month, and it is about a witch named Vivian who curses her ex-boyfriend, and then it kind of goes awry and starts destroying the town. So there's murderous wind-up toys, a pissed-off ghost, and a talking cat with some interesting things to say. She ends up having to work with Reese to save the town and find a way to break the breakup curse. I'm actually unclear if Reese is like the ex or if Reese is a new man, so I don't know if this is second chance romance or not, but it sounds really fun and I cannot wait to read it. How many times will I say that in this video? Too many. The next book I got is A House or I guess it's not a house, it's just House of Salt and Sorrows. And I don't know what made me buy this. I think I just like the cover and it looked like a fun fantasy, and I really like how floppy it is. I don't know if you can tell, but it's like super floppy, which apparently is enough to make me buy a book. So this is about 12 sisters who are cursed in a manor in the sea, and then a bunch of them start dying, and Annalie, who is one of the sisters, has to try and kind of figure out why they're dying. So she gets involved with a mysterious stranger who has secrets of his own that intensify, and it's a race to unravel the darkness that has fallen over her family. So this sounds really interesting. I'm always here for a fantasy romance. I haven't heard too many people talk about this yet. I don't know if it's new, but I'm excited to read it. I only have one book on my Kindle, which I ended up getting Ward D by Frida McFadden. I have a love-hate relationship with Frida McFadden because I feel like her books are kind of insane and the writing is not like the best. I also cannot put them down. Like they're very addicting. So I've read a couple of her books at this point. I think this is her newest one, but I also think she publishes like 3 books a year or something crazy, so maybe not her newest one anymore. It was on sale I think for like $2.99, and I like to download these to have on my Kindle and my phone for if I'm ever like out somewhere without a book, and I'll just like pick this one up basically. I honestly have no idea what this is about. I'm pretty sure it's about a psychiatrist that ends up spending the night in a creepy ward of a hospital or something, and like things start going wrong. And then we're getting into some of my library books. The first one I got was Good Bad Girl by Alice Feeney, which I did not realize is a large print book. So like look how massive the text is. It's so big. I don't know how much longer this book is in this version, but it's kind of funny. I honestly don't know if I'm gonna get around to reading this because I have so many books I want to read this month, but it's Alice Feeney's newest release and my library had it, which is rare, so I decided to pick it up in case I had time to read it. This is about a baby that was stolen 20 years ago from a stroller and a woman that was murdered in a home, and the two crimes are somehow linked, and a good bad girl may be the key to discovering the truth. So it seems like our main character Edith is living in a nursing home and working with patients who cleans the nursing home, and they try and solve this mystery. So I don't know, it sounds kind of interesting. The next book from the library I got was Take a Hint, Dani Brown. I read Get a Life, Chloe Brown earlier this year, and I really liked it, and I've been meaning to pick up the rest of the books in the series. So this follows Dani, who is Chloe's sister, and she is over romance. She's done with relationships. She wants the perfect friends with benefits situation. So she meets this guy named Zaf and decides they're destined to sleep together. But then there's this video that goes viral of him like rescuing her from a fire, or a fire drill, rescuing her from like a fire drill, and the whole internet is like obsessed with them and really wants them to be together. So they end up like faking their relationship in the public because it's helping both of them out with different things, and I love a fake dating trope, so I can't wait to read this. And then the last book I got from the library is The Institute by Stephen King. This just felt like a good October book to read, and I've been wanting to read this for a while, but I don't really feel like I need to buy Stephen King books, you know? Like I feel like they're everywhere, and honestly this one's kind of thick, but it's not as thick as his other books. It's only 600 pages, but it's a pocketbook. And this is about intruders who silently murder Luke Ellis's parents and steal him away from his home, an operation that takes less than 2 minutes. He'll wake up in a faraway room that looks just like his own, except there's no window. Oh my god, this is so good. I've never actually read the description of this before. This is creepy. Outside his door are several other doors, behind which are several other kids with special abilities. They're all confined to an area known as front half, which is a good thing. No one ever returns from back half. Cooperation is rewarded and resistance is punished brutally. As each new victim disappears in back half, Luke becomes increasingly desperate to somehow find a way out and get help, even though no one has ever escaped from the living hell known as the Institute. Okay, I actually had no idea what this is about, but that sounds creepy. Can't wait. The next books are once again books that I bought. I got Percy Jackson and the Olympians Chalice of the Gods, which is the newest Percy Jackson book that just came out, and it's like actually about Percy because there's been a lot of books in like the universe of Percy Jackson, but not a lot about Percy Jackson. So I think the plot of this is that Percy, Annabeth, and Grover go on quests to help Percy get into college, and I'm not really sure how that ends up happening. I think like the gods give him tasks, and when they do that they'll write him like a recommendation letter from like Zeus the god, you know, which is kind of a fun plot. So it's a really short book. It's only like 250 pages, so I'm excited to read this. I'm gonna try and read this soon. If you have watched my channel, you know I am a diehard Percy Jackson fan, and I will read anything Rick Riordan puts out for the rest of my life. The next book I got was an impulse purchase, and that is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I don't know if I really need to say who the author is of Frankenstein. Look how pretty this book is. Like, it's reflective, and it's just so pretty. And I've been wanting to try reading some classics, but I wanted ones that are like fairly easily digestible, because otherwise I'm not gonna read them. If I feel like I have to read for school kind of vibe, I'm not gonna read it. So I've heard Frankenstein is good, and it's not super long. It's not even 200 pages. Oh, it is 200 pages. Okay, it's 200 pages. I feel like it'll be fun. I feel like it'll be a fun read. I also kind of want to read Jane Eyre. I've heard from a couple of people that it's a really easy classic to read, but it's still a thick book, which kind of intimidated me. But maybe I'll buy it in like a matching cover, because these are so pretty. And they were only $19.99, so I had to buy it. So I got that. And the last book that I got is The Wake Up Call by Beth O'Leary. I think this is new. I don't know for sure. And I read The Flat Share a little while ago by Beth O'Leary, and I loved it. And it was like one of the biggest surprises of the year for me so far, where like I went into it with pretty like mild expectations, and it just like blew me away. I loved her writing, and I love the way she like characterized her characters. So this is about a hotel in the busiest season of the year that is literally falling apart, and Izzy and Lucas are given the same shift at the hotel front desk, and they have no choice but to put their differences aside and see it through. So Izzy and Lucas kind of have this rivalry. They're in a race to try and save the hotel, and their bitter rivalry turns into something much more complicated. They begin to wonder if there's more at stake here than the hotel's future. Can the two of them make it through the season with their hearts intact? This sounds like a fun little rom-com. It sounds kind of like Christmassy, holiday-y. So I think I'll try and read this in November or December. And this one's also really floppy, which I like. So those are all the books that I have purchased in the past few weeks, months, I don't know. I have no concept of time. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, you can subscribe down below for new bookish videos every single week, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye!